All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott from Jeff Teaches Programming. In the last video, as you can see right here, we began creating an object-oriented programming version of our BMI console program. And in there, don't worry about this, but I added 3 classes. I added a person class, I added a BMI calculator class, and I added the person repository class. All right, now in our regular program, okay, I'm up to here where we've got input a new person. And most of this we're going to be able to keep. So we want to be able to do this, our height, our weight, etc. Our first name, our last name, our height, our weight, our BMI, and our BMI status. But this stuff that's here, this right out to the BMI list, we're not going to use anymore. Now what I want to do is I want to call things from our new BMI class that we created. All right. Probably I should have just put these, again, I don't know why. I've got a validation library there. I guess I should have done that in the same way. I should have just gone and created a class library. That's what I should have done. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to change what I've done to put that into a class library, but we're going to see right now. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to come up and try to, I would say do a Hail Mary, but you'll see what I want to do in just a minute. Okay, I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to choose Add New Project, and I'm going to choose a class library. And I'm going to call this BMI Library. All right. I don't need the class that's going to be in there. So there's my, somewhere in here, there's my BMI library. I don't even need this class. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to close my person repository class, my calculator class, and my person class. Now I'm going to attempt, at least, to take all 3 of those classes that I put in here, and I'm just going to try it with a copy. So I'm going to copy, and I'm going to paste. Looks like it put them in there okay, which means I don't need this folder anymore. If for some reason I really hosed it up, I'll have to redo it. I'm not worried about it. All right, but what I do have to do is in this project right here, you'll see at the top, I have using validation lib, which is fine. We're still going to use that, but I also want to go in here and I want to add a reference, and I want to add the reference to the BMI library. All right, and I guess I could have called it BMI lib, but that's okay. Let's see if we can get this to work now. No, of course not. Oh, I know why. Something that I talked to you about before, and that is I have to go back now and rebuild all these classes in the library. At least I think I do. All right, so let's do that right now. All right, and then I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to remove the reference I've just added. All right, I'm going to bring these files back out again that are in the BMI library, and I'm going to rebuild them and hope that I have no problem with that. So here's my person, build, rebuild solution. And of course, it's giving me a lot of errors, but the errors that it's giving me are all in here in the program file. All right, so that using statement I want to get out of there, and there'll be a lot of other stuff. I don't need this choice anymore, so I can get rid of that. And I won't even need to have this calculate BMI status. What I'll do is I'll keep this in here, but I'm just going to remove everything that's inside of it. And since it's a string, I'm just going to return the empty string. All right. And this write out all statistics, I'm not going to really have to use either. It's a void, so I'm just going to remove everything that's in there as well. And the write out to list, is a void, so I'm going to remove all of that as well. These are being replaced by what we're putting in the into the classes. I shouldn't have to put this in there either. All right, so let's see. I got one too many curlies. All right, this clear. These are all being replaced by what we have put into the classes. All right, so hopefully now I've gotten everything out of there. So let's go back to my person class. So let's do a file, save all, and let's see if we can now rebuild my person class. Okay, that worked. Now let's go to the BMI calculator class, and let's see if we can rebuild that one. And that worked. And then let's go to the person repository class and see if we can rebuild that one. So all of those worked. Now I want to go back to my 8th iteration here, the program file, right mouse click on here and choose add reference. Now we're going to try to see if we can bring in the reference to the BMI library. And if it still fails, we'll have to figure out what the problem is. So after using validation lib, I'll have a using BMI, that's still give me an error, library. All right, doesn't like that, so let's see if we can figure out why. It says could not be found. Show potential fixes. Remove, suppress. No, we don't want to do either one of those. I did go back. It is BMI library. It has the calculator. It has the person. It has the repository. They've all been rebuilt. Oh, I think now the namespace might be wrong. So let's see, namespace. Tell you what I'm going to do. Try to make my life easier. I am going to grab every bit of what's in here, copy it to the clipboard, paste that in. So that was the one of them, and let's do the other two as well. All right, so that was the person repository. This is person. It's because I shouldn't have done it the way I did it. I don't know why I forgot about class library, but I did. So let's just go on. Copy that as well. And I'm just copying this so I don't have to retype all this stuff in again. Hopefully you all realize that. So let's go in here to our BMI library. Let's close everything. We'll leave the program up, but we're going to cancel everything else. So close everything else. Now I'm going to remove the BMI library. Okay, so it's gone, but I do have to do one thing before I do this. I want to go back to here, and I want this BMI library to be gone. And I also want to look in my 8th. Okay, the BMI library is not there anymore, so that's good. All right, let's go back to the program, and we're going to recreate what we just did. So file, add new project. Again, it'll be our class library, and we'll just call it BMI lib. Okay, there's that. We don't need this class 1 that's in here, so I'm going to delete that, and I will come in and I will add a class. This will be person. All right. So in our person class that we have right here, let's go back to where we were. And that was here, I believe. Yep. All right, so there's person. Let's see. Person, last name, etc. Looks okay the way it is. Again, we don't need any of this stuff. So let's do a file, save all. And that's our first class, person. So let's add another class. So let's add, like I said, another class. And that will be BMI calculator. Okay, again, we don't need any of this stuff. Let's find that one over here. There that is. So we've got that one. Finally, let's do the third one, which was our person repository. All right, we are going to keep the collections generic because in here, if you remember, we had put in a list. All right, so let's go back. Let's find that one, which is that here? Nope. Is that here? Nope. It's here. All right, so let's bring that in. All right, so I think I've got all three of my classes back now. So file, save all. Let's try to rebuild all of these. So we'll start with person, build solution. Doggone it. It says the type BMI library could not be found. I don't want that. That's in my program file. I don't know how I got that in there. So save all. Let's go back to person. Build. We'll try to build the solution. That worked. Let's go to BMI calculator, build solution. And that worked. Let's go to person repository and build solution. And that worked. All right. All of them are now working. So now we should be able to go back to our main program here. And I should, after I close that, be able to go back in and add a reference. And the reference is to BMI lib. Okay, and now hopefully I'll be able to come in here and say using BMI, it's still not letting me, BMI lib. Well, it's not giving me an error though, and that's good. So let's see. So let's come down to here. We don't need this choice anymore. Okay, got our create menu. We've got all this. Now this write out to lists, etc. We don't need any of this anymore. This is being replaced by what we're doing in our classes. All right, so we'll see if this works. I'm going to say here person, and of course it doesn't work. All right, it is not recognizing. Solution. That worked. Rebuild solution. Okay. Why is it giving me an error in here? It says validation DLL could not be found. Well, the problem is I came back in here and I put in this line. So let's go back to person, build, rebuild solution. That should work. Does not. Validation.dll could not be found. For some reason, it's not liking this. So let's go back to our 8th iteration, add reference. It's not in there. That's why. Validation lib. Okay. All right. Now let's do a file, save all. Let's go back and do these one at a time. Build, rebuild solution. Okay, that one worked. Calculator, build, rebuild solution. That worked. Our person repository, build, rebuild solution. And that worked. So all three of these have worked. Let's go back to the program now. All right. And see if we can add that reference back. We have BMI-lib. I'm going to get rid of it and try to re-add it again. Okay. Still not showing. Son of a gun. It's not giving us an error, but I don't think, let's see if we can find it in here. Because what we want to do in here is we want to say person, and notice it's not finding it. And I'm 16 minutes in, not sure what the problem is. Let me pause for a minute and see if I can figure it out. All right, I believe I figured out the problem. And it's foolish on my part. This has to be public. Here, oops, public. And it has to be public here. And it has to be public here. And I also notice I spelled that wrong. So that should be renamed as person repository. All right. So let's also make that public. All right. So let's see. It's giving me an error there. So I'll comment that out for now. All right. Let's go back in as we did before. Let's do a file, save all, and let's rebuild all of these. So person, build, rebuild solution. Looks okay. Calculator, build, rebuild solution. That looks okay. In-person repository, build, rebuild solution. All right, it's telling us this validation thing cannot be found. And this is in 5th iteration. Good golly. Validation lib it doesn't see right now, so add reference. All right, so let's try that again. I don't probably have to do all of them, so let's try this. In my person, let's right mouse click, choose add reference, BMI-lib. In fact, before we do that, let's make sure this person repository build, rebuild solution. Okay, they've all been rebuilt now. So in my program here, I want to close that first of all, go back to my 8th iteration BMI console, add a reference. That should be to BMI-lib. I'm going to remove it and add it again. All right, now I'm going to try to say this using BMI-lib, and we'll see if it works. There it is. So that's a good sign. All right, now we'll see if we're able to start using some of this stuff. Person, equals new person, and we're going to pass in the first name, not the first name, the first name, the last name, the height, the weight, the BMI, and the BMI status. All right, that's a good sign that everything worked. Person repository dot, that isn't good. Well, I don't think it's going to take it like this. Yeah. I want to say dot add here, which it's not finding. And I want to add person. And then I want to say person dot display person. Person. All right, doesn't like either one of these, so I'm going to have to probably stop this very quickly. But let's look at what else we've got in here. We have a display person. Do we have a display person? No, we don't. It's going to replace what we had earlier, so let's go to here. Let's just put it right here. So I'm going to say static void display person P. Could have called it person, it doesn't matter. And we're going to put in a bunch of write lines here. Kind of like what we did before. Okay, so they'll write out the name. The next was the weight, which is basically the same thing. So we'll just change this H to a W here and here. Then we need our BMI and our BMI status. And finally, we'll need our BMI status. That was BMI. This is the BMI status. Okay. Then we will do a pause, which we haven't written, but we'll put in there in just a second. All right, I've got to figure out, like I said, what these problems are. So I think what I'm going to do is just stop right here. And I was hoping to get this done in 2 parts, but I guess there'll be a 3rd part. And it's getting late, so I'm going to do that 3rd part tomorrow. See you then. Thanks.